breaking this down. There's a lot of different investigations here and a lot to keep straight. So let's bring in Andy McCarthy, former federal prosecutor and Fox News contributor. Andy, welcome. Always good to have you with us here.
Thanks, Martha.
So one of the things that we learned here is that there was more back and forth in the spring between the former president and the people at the National Archives, right? Because we sort of had the story that they came, they took what they wanted, the president greeted them, and then suddenly there's a raid. But now it appears there was clearly some more back and forth in that interim period, correct?
Yes, Martha, and I think it's not an accident that this letter went out today. Yeah. We got a motion yesterday from President Trump's lawyers where he gave a narrative version of events. And what I've tried to caution is that if someone who doesn't have to speak gives a narrative version of events, you're kind of sticking your chin out. And if it turns out that the facts don't bear you out, that can redound to your detriment. So what the president or former president says in his motion is that he was completely transparent and for the whole time was nothing but cooperative. Now we see this paper trail from the National Archives, which indicates that after they discovered that some of the documents that were returned had classified markings in January, they wanted to give that stuff to the FBI. The reason for that is whenever there's a possibility that classified information, especially top secret stuff, was mishandled, they have to do a damage assessment to find out, have informants been compromised? Have methods and sources of intelligence been compromised? So they need the FBI to do that, and that's why they went to the Justice Department, went to President Biden to ask that the archivists be directed to give the stuff to the FBI. And what we learn now is that President or former President Trump tried to block the FBI from getting access. And finally, this all came to a head in May after the archivist had twice delayed at the request of former President Trump giving the stuff to the FBI. Finally, they decided that based on President Biden not supporting President Trump's assertion of privilege, they were going to provide it.
Yeah, so there is a lot more back and forth here than was originally revealed. So there were attempts to say, we absolutely need all of it that were apparently blocked, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so
yeah, there's back and forth both ways, Martha. There's much more involvement in the White House.
Absolutely.
And there's much more involvement, much more dispute.
Yeah, the White House continues to say they kept it at arm's length, but these new revelations do show us that they were in the loop. The legal counsel at the White House understood what was going on, which is important to reveal as well. Here's one soundbite. You've got people in the Wall Street Journal editorial, attorneys saying that the raid was completely unjustified on the one hand, and then on the other hand, you have this from Andrew Weissman, former FBI general counsel, talking about this revelation this morning. Watch this.
Several sources said that when the archives were trying to get the documents back, that it was the former president, Donald Trump, who personally reviewed the boxes in deciding what to return. That is incredibly damning. If you're a prosecutor, you really look for evidence of what the former president did personally.
So there again, one of the points of discussion here, and we don't know what we don't know. These are, sort of what's trickling out, and we have to really keep that in mind. But there are these reports that he went through some of the documents personally, and what we heard in the initial stages was, he couldn't be bothered. Somebody packed up all these boxes and sent them, and they were in the basement, and he doesn't even know what's in there. What's the importance of all that?
Well, I think, again, Martha, when Attorney General Garland chose to speak about the case when he gave that press conference, I guess it's close to 2 weeks ago now, it would have been good if he had given an explanation for why this was necessary. And as you've just pointed out, we don't know all the facts here. We don't know, what level of involvement President Trump had. We don't know whether that matters, because if there was real concern that there was very dire national security information that had to be, put in a safe place, how much personal involvement President Trump had in the review would almost be beside the point, right? They'd have to get the stuff. So we don't know what alternatives were available to Attorney General Garland. We now know that obviously they were trying to get the FBI to be able to review this stuff. President Trump was trying to block them from letting the FBI review the stuff. They decided to let him review it, let the FBI review it sometime in May. And based on that assessment, you have this June meeting. And obviously they decided they weren't getting full cooperation and had to go to a search warrant. But we don't know yet what other alternatives were available to them.
Yeah, we know that President Biden at one point said he wanted Garland to be more like a prosecutor than a judge. And yet they say they wanted to keep this whole thing at arm's length, but they did not appoint a special master or some sort of, impartial person to get involved in this, which President Trump is now saying that he would like. Very quick thought on that, Andy, before we go.
I think if you want to keep things at arm's length, you maybe shouldn't run for president, because that's like the arm's length job. So, I mean, he's involved. Obviously, it's national security information. He's got to be involved.
Yep. Executive branch, DOJ, FBI, in that order. Andy, thank you very much. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Martha.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.